I never do this in class, ever. I don't think I've ever forgotten to turn the camera on. But, okay, so we're doing a Turnitin demo if you're just joining us. So to turn it in for an essay, you would go to your essay, go down to submission type, select external tool, hit find, scroll down and select Turnitin right here, select, and save. Now this creates a space for a student to drag and drop an essay in a box to submit it to you, and it runs it through Turnitin. Okay, if you want to, then I would suggest you go inside Turnitin to make some changes. Okay, so you click on this little 3-bar thingy right here and select modify. So this is settings. And verify that this is still correct. This data comes from the setting that you did in Canvas. These dates right here. Okay? Optional settings. At the bottom, right here, you get additional things to change or to select. Standard paper repository. If you leave it on standard paper repository, that paper will go into the Turnitin library for future checks for plagiarism. So that paper now becomes a part of the whole plagiarism check process with millions and millions of papers already in the repository. Okay? I would recommend you just leave it the way it is so it automatically goes in the repository. So that student's not going to use the same paper again next week in another class. Okay, this is allow submission. In this case, it's already checked for any type, which means it can be PDF or Word. In most cases for an essay, it'll still check a PDF file. It'll run it just like it will a Word document. Allow late submissions if you want to allow late submissions or not. You can turn that on or turn it off. So it's now off. You cannot submit late. Enable grammar checking using ETS. And then this is the setup for ETS for US English Dictionary. And these are the kinds of things it'll check: spelling, grammar, usage, mechanics, and style. And you can turn these off if you want. Compare against. This is where it will begin comparing against other papers of various types to check for plagiarism, or for similarities is what it's called. That's the politically correct term. So with this checked, it checks against the student paper repository, current and archived website content, periodicals, journals, and publications. You would want to leave all those on so it goes out and checks all of them. Okay? Okay, so the similarity report right here. The 3 choices are report immediately, reports immediately, and students can resubmit until due date. After 3 resubmissions, the paper reports, and I can't read it because it doesn't go over far enough. Generate reports on the due date. So you can do it immediately and resubmit, and do on the due date. Those are your choices. If you want the student to be able to resubmit a paper, for example, the way that it's set up where I go to school at Aspen, you can resubmit up to 3 times. They have that selected. So you run it through the first time for plagiarism checker and you find out you're over 20%. They give us a second chance to go fix it and then resubmit it, which I've had to do a couple of times. Okay, so you can allow the students to do that if you want to, or not. I would suggest that you allow them to do that because of those circumstances.
How does it treat quotes?
It treats quotes, well, I'll show you in just a second. That's a really good question. Right here below that, you can check for it to exclude bibliographic materials because it will count those as similarities. And all the book titles, all that stuff will come up and count at a percentage against them. Exclude quoted material. So anything inside quotes, you can exclude that.
Okay.
Okay? So it's not counted against them. I assume, but I do not know if it excludes block quotes or not. I have not bothered to check that. And exclude small sources. And I'm not sure the definition of small sources. But the big ones are the biographical materials and the direct quotes. If you take those out, it will, on most papers, especially the biographical materials, if they don't have a lot of quotes, it will help them a lot. Also, inside the document itself, you can turn those filters on there too. When you're checking the document, when the report comes up, you can turn those filters on so it takes out the biographical material and the direct quotes right there on that point in time. Or you can do it up front here. So it's not even checked when you submit it.
What's biographical material?
The reference material at the end? Yes, I'm sorry, bibliographical material. Apologize. Yeah, the reference material at the end. References. Yep.
Because if you're using it and you don't have that checked, the entire reference.
Yeah, it's all
is
red.
gonna be a
It's all
simple
colors. Yeah, it counts. Yep. And then you can save whatever settings that you've chosen for future use by clicking right here. But I have found that that's for future use. I think when you're reusing the course, I found that I still have to go in and select the things I want to select for every assignment I put up. Okay. So questions on Turnitin for essays? Yes.
Can I have a comment?
Yes.
I really like showing the students how much of their paper has been quoted, even though that's not for plagiarism. It's really eye-opening for them to realize that about 50% of their paper is quotes, when it should be way less than that. So if you've got problems with that, you could turn that on, or you can show them by flipping it on and off on their paper and say, this is unacceptable, you need to quote less, paraphrase more.
I'm not going to do that. Other questions or comments? Yes.
If we have students,
I decided not to. Yeah. Yes.
if we have students who've told us that they haven't been able to upload it through Turnitin for some reason, do we know why that might be? Is it?
Check your settings to make sure that you've allowed them to do that. And if you go up here to allow submissions of any type, if you got that checked, they should be able to put in a Word document or a PowerPoint slide presentation or a PDF file without any problem.
Okay.
But this should be checked. I would check that just to make sure it is. But I've had students who tell me that and everyone else is able to turn them in.
Right.
So there's one student that has an issue. Then the subsequent papers that same student was able to turn in.
Dr. Skip had it.
Yeah, they go
That's-
over their limit and then they can't
There
just
it
turn
is.
it in.
That's it.
What does that mean?
They can only, well, in the normal setting, you can only turn it in once. And they realize they plagiarized, and they try to fix it, and they try to turn it in again, they can't.
Right.
Did this student get anything in at all?
They said they sent it to me via email. So
Okay, that's a way to get around turn it in.
Right.
Don't
Thanks.
do that.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Got it.
I've been a sheriff, deputy sheriff too long. If everyone else is able to do it, then they can do it too.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, because I was gonna say, however you have it set up, everyone should be able to make use of Turnitin. Everyone, no matter how you have it set up.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay. So that's as much as I know about Turnitin, which isn't much. Except I've been a victim for the past 2 years of Turnitin on the
What is it?
receiving end of this.
But
Yes.
you're gonna show us your essay though, right?
Well, I was going to, but I decided not to.
Oh, okay.
Just out of curiosity,
Because of time.
Okay.
as a student, what do you see coming back?
Okay.
I'm not looking to see, I just want to see what the students,
No, I'll
what
show
kind of
you.
report they get back.
Let's see. I'm not used to
Paul,
doing
it's a
this.
marked up paper with percentages, plagiarism.
It's highlighted
Here we
with
go.
little notes in the margin.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yep.
Let's see. Grades. Nope, Dropbox. I do this so rarely. Here we go. Okay, this is a bad one because it is a PowerPoint slide. Let me do a different one. Okay, so the paper's on the left, and what you see on the right are sources. So these are 1, 2, 3, these are all numbered, and the numbers will be linked over to the text. This is hard to see, but that links to number 5. So this is the same statement as a submitted Aspen paper, probably mine from the past. This is only 5%, so it's not very high. Let's see. Show you. Typically, a lot of this stuff is going to show up at in the reference material. It's just like this. So most of my 5% is here at the reference material. So this is where all the links are. This is 3. That's 2. That's 4. That's 7. Linking over there, where these references have showed up somewhere else. Now, if it's a student paper that's got a really high percentage, it's going to be colored everywhere, and you're going to have numbers everywhere on the text. One of the things you can do is click on this. It'll show you what the deal is with it. Let's do this one. I should expand to tell you what it is. Okay, so this is ScholarWorks. This is a reference to a ScholarWorks document of some kind, and the details here for some of the places where it's been used before. So you can spend some time just kind of going through the entire document to see where the references are from. I've had students turn things in that were cut and paste directly from websites, verbatim, no change. You know, I had one student do a conclusion. There's a paper on the Titanic. The conclusion was from a website that says how to write a conclusion for a Titanic paper.
Yes.
Wow.
It was fabulous. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Do we as an institution have a standard that we have established?
What I'm used to is 20%. That's kind of what I put out. You can establish your own standard, but that's what I'm used to. Yes.
So, what's the procedure when you have a student who's over 20%, such as maybe 25, 35?
If it's like the 25 to 35 range, I will comment on it. I may knock the grade down just a little bit if there's something hinky going on, but I'm not going to have them redo the paper. Where it gets over like 40 or higher is when you start, and it's really plagiarism. It's not just the references. Where it's cut and paste and it's obvious from a source. That's when you have to go to Corey
Okay.
and notify him that this has happened. The Student Services Office needs to know when this occurs, because they track this. You may know that he did it this time. He may have done it twice before on other professors that you don't know about. Corey keeps all that information. You can deal with him or her in your class how you see fit. It's up to you. You can have them redo the paper over. You can give them an F for the paper and just say, no, that's it, 0, you're done for this paper, or however you want to do it. But the Student Services Office has additional requirements that they have to meet for multiple occasions of plagiarism that they will deal with separately from what you're doing. So Thomas first, then Skip.
I meant to ask this a while back and I forgot. Occasionally my tutors will find plagiarism.
Mm-hmm.
I've encouraged them to talk to the student about that and say, hey, if I was able to find this, how about your professor? You know, is there a policy that you would like me to follow in that for the CAC, or is that fine, or does the faculty have a suggestion?
Gary?
And sort of tie in with that, are we able to work with the CAC and let them turn it in rather than us having to worry about it?
You mean allow them?
So our requirement would be your paper must be turned into CAC to go through, turn it in, and then they report as to whether the paper is over the limit, and if it is, then the CAC could say to the student, you have to redo this paper, and the CAC then would be responsible to do that. When the paper is sufficient, then they get the approval from CAC, and then they send it to us, and then we don't have to worry about as professors whether the paper's been, each paper going through, turn it in.
The problem with that is the CAC doesn't have access to it.
And it would
They don't-
put
They
us-
don't have the manpower.
They don't have access to the
every
portal.
single student's
it,
paper.
it would put us in a position of authority over the students rather than a peer tutor. And so it would be really hard to be able to do what we do and have the tutoring relationship and mentoring relationship we do on that level, where the tutors are still students and they're still able to speak into the lives on that student level. If you give them that authority, then suddenly it's like, oh, you can really report on things. Whereas, you know, when we detect plagiarism in a paper, we can, you know, point it out and kind of like, you know, I'm wondering what's going on here. You know, do you need help finding sources for the paper? I'm detecting something here. Sometimes the students will lie about it to us too. But there are occasions where, you know, it is kind of an ethical thing on the tutor, like, what should I do here? That, I think, is something different than if we were responsible for managing the whole system.
Mechanically, they don't have access to the portal, so they're not going to see the Turnitin report. But what they're doing is detecting it by other means, like website checks or Googling.
And students, like even my high school students, if they read through a paper doing a peer review, they found plagiarism in each other's papers. It's really entertaining to watch. Like I said, how'd you know that? Are you a professor? They said, no, it just sounds different. It's
You can detect difference in grammar, yeah.
Yes.
Tom?
So when a student turns a paper in to Canvas, are they able to see the results of turning it in?
If you select that, that is an option for you to select.
They should be the first ones to see it.
Let's see. Right here. Allow students to view similarity reports. That should be clicked. You should do this if it's not clicked already so that they can see the report. That's a choice you make when you set it up.
Okay,
I think that's clicked automatically, I believe.
But the students should see their results first.
Yeah, but and you can turn it off so they can't.
So they can't see their results?
Yeah, if you have this
You
clicked,
could turn it off.
if that is not checked, they won't see the results.
Right.
You want to have that checked so that they can see the results, yeah.
Right.
and then you've got to give them more than one opportunity.
You don't have to.
They have to be allowed to turn it in more than once.
Well, it's up to you. If you say that one and done and you'll get an F and that's the end of discussion, or if you allow them to do multiple turn-ins, that they fix it and then return it in.
Where
You
does
can do
it
that
say
too.
that for the second, third try?
Right.
It's that drop down menu.
Under
Under similarity
additional.
report.
No, right there, you drop it.
Yeah, okay. Right here?
Little selection.
So, generate report immediately, students can resubmit until due date.
Up to 3 times.
That allows them to resubmit 3 times, or submit up to 3 times. So, but you have to physically select this one. It's gonna be defaulted to the top one.
The
Wait,
reality
what's
is,
the top one say?
The top one is generate reports immediately. Students cannot resubmit.
the reality is, most of them aren't gonna turn the paper in until the night before anyway, so they're not gonna have a chance to fix it.
Wow, then we don't wait till night before.
Most,
I wait till the morning is when I get my, but the morning.
in the morning.
Okay, other questions?
Well, I was just gonna say, in the past, unfortunately, I've had to deal with this multiple times. In the past, Dean Corey has told me to give the student a 0 on the assignment unless he was already aware of multiple times, then they fail the course.
Now, the student handbook lays out what happens if it happens more than once.
Correct.
You shouldn't have to worry about that. That's why he's tracking you. Yes.
So this is already, Turnitin is already tied into Canvas,
Mm-hmm.
and it's our selection, the
Yes.
external source.
Yeah, you have to select it as a turn-in means, and then you can choose all from this menu of what you want to have happen with the course. Yep, with the paper.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mike?
Does this, back at that selection of the turn-in means, they have text box they could enter it, or a
Yes.
website?
Yeah.
Does this supersede, does this cover your text box? Or is it just only a submission?
It's in place of. So when you select turn it in, the other, it takes the place of the text box or online submission or whatever.
So if we have like a discussion board that they have to respond to, and we're looking for them to, I mean, can they just cut and paste from somebody else in one of those text boxes? Does it negate the opportunity to use the text box for
No.
discussion?
If it's a discussion question, no. This has nothing to do with discussion questions. This has to do with turning in essays.
So it will
Yeah.
not check any discussion box?
No. No, this is for essay turn-in specifically. Yes.
This is gonna be new for all the students, most of them. Some of them, like Dr. Jerry's been using.
I've been using it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how did you make sure your students were aware of what they needed to do?
I told them at the beginning of class.
Or on that first day? you
First day, yeah.
told
One
them?
of the things I talked about, we're using Turnitin. I'm using Turnitin. This is what it is. And most of them already know about it.
Yeah.
They were already aware of it. And these are the parameters. Yes.
Do you have this in your syllabus somewhere? You say it's turned in,
I don't. I do not believe.
Should it be?
Probably, now that you asked that question. In the plagiarism statement, maybe a sentence at the end of it.
Yeah, it can be connected to the plagiarism statement.
A sentence right at the end of the plagiarism statement, yeah.
Go through the Turnitin disseminator, whatever you call it.
For some it will be.
Turninator. Okay, Joel.
I assume this this can't solve the problem of students who take out a thesaurus and rework stuff.
No, you can, if it will not detect paraphrasing,
Yeah.
but you want students to paraphrase.
Well, yes and no. Years ago.
As long as they're referencing it.
Yeah, when the students had to do the doctrinal statement, their own doctrinal statement, and I found 2 or 3 students, literally, I found them working with a Calvary doctrinal statement and a thing, changing words here and there so that they could say it was their own, which is not the point at all. But yes,
Right.
you're right, in a regular paper.
No, it will not detect paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Microsoft Word now has a program where you can do an automatic paraphrase, and it will do all of that automatically.
Oh, I don't want to hear
Of course
this.
it will.
No.
Yeah.
So, just so you're aware.
Just bring out the menu that says cheat. I got it.
Okay.
That's what you-
We are going to move on now.
Okay.
You all got to see my last paper.
Good job, by the way.
Yeah, I
When I
passed.
could read, it was really good.
I passed the paper. I got the grade back today, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, faculty load. Have we talked about this already? We haven't, in this group. No, okay. I know what some people have, I'm losing track. And Jackie put the slides together, so we're good. The deans had a meeting to talk about how we're going to deal with faculty load with regard to the changing of the cycle format and a cycle off situation. So 5 on, 1 off. So in the end, we were wrestling with how do we do a load by cycle, and it's like the math does not work. Because the standard, at least in the Midwest, and everywhere I checked, is 12 hours minimum. And I didn't find a real maximum amount, but we've said 18 hours is the maximum amount per semester. Okay? So we decided to continue with that 12 hours minimum and 18 hours maximum load per semester, even in the semester where there's only 2 cycles you're working. Okay? And we just have to work the load to make it happen. That's kind of the bottom line. All 3 cycles per semester count toward load now. In the past, 1 and 6 did not. They will now count for your load. If you desire to teach more than 18 hours per semester, we decided to, instead of doing what we had in the past, just basically saying no, we decided to have an appeal process. If you desire to teach more than 18 hours a semester, then you can appeal to the department chair and get approval from the dean and myself to do that. But this should be by exception. And the reason for this is the accreditors don't want us to have you teaching overloads above whatever that limit is. Because some schools take advantage of faculty, and some schools just do it and allow the faculty to kind of run rampant. And back in 2000, when the first HLC visit occurred here, the load levels were of a magnitude not acceptable. They were huge. And so the HLC team said, no, you guys got to get this under control. So Dr. Clark, who is the dean at the time, began lowering the load levels at the top end down to 16 hours. We increased it to 18 hours about 3 or 4 years ago because it's like you can't get 16 hours out of, it's kind of doesn't, the math doesn't work. So, any questions on that? Yes?
Faculty administrators?
Faculty administrator load limit is 9 or 12? 9? 9, yeah.
Thank you.
For part-time and full-time, part-time and adjuncts, the rules are different. They're established by the IRS. Okay? That is based on how many hours you're teaching at a moment in time. So you slice the time, and that's how they check it. So it's moment by moment by moment as opposed to semesters, like normal. And I don't want to go any further than that because it makes my head hurt. Okay, if an instructor desires to teach during their cycle off, because we've been asked about this, then you may do so if you so desire. The department chair and the instructor will make these decisions at the department level. Because the department chairs are working with faculty to sort out who's teaching which courses and which cycle anyway. And so the department chairs, along with Jackie, of course, and the registrar are managing the load. Faculty load and overload. Overload will pay out once an instructor meets a load for the semester. We may not know that until we get to the last cycle of the semester because of courses not making. Okay, and then once it settles out, then Jackie can make that happen. Classes that do not count toward loads include J-term classes. Will still not count J-term. You'll get paid out for J-term regardless of where you are on load. Legacy courses and directed study courses will be paid when grades are submitted at $50 per student hour, just like they have been in the past. Online only courses. We've had to struggle with this one because we do have some courses that are online only. And most of these usually have like 2, 3, 4 students. I have one now, I think that has maybe 5 in it. It's a Missouri history class. Education students need it. So what we decided to do is, if 5 or more students are enrolled, we will pay adjunct pay. Just like if it was an in-class class with 5 students, the class would make, and you get paid out for it. Okay? If it's below 5, then we will pay $50 per student hour. Questions on that? Okay. Let's see. Legacy courses. The legacy courses will be 8 weeks. O courses can be 16 weeks, internships, capstones, those kinds of things. Their office classes can be 16 weeks long. Those will be exceptions to the 8-week rule. Directed study courses could be either 8-week or 16-week, depending on the agreement between the instructor and the student. The registrar needs to know that, obviously. Jackie needs to know that as well. But these are kind of by exception. Okay. Any questions on those? These are unique classes. Okay. Okay, so that's all I got. Any questions? I will refer all questions to Dr. Gromacki. Since you're sitting in the middle of the room, you can hear everything. Great. Okay. Committee reports. Do the deans have anything? Mike?
Just a reminder, what we just covered, if you want to have some conversation about bouncing off somebody, give me a call. We'll talk about how to level out your departments for class coverage, cycles off. I'm hearing every once in a while, perhaps by department, a consistent Canvas setup for your courses. We're not mandating everybody set them up the same way, but perhaps it will help students in a department if you have some consistency across your courses in the department. That's just a suggestion, thought. Paper format, you gotta make those decisions. Curriculum mapping is another thing. I hope we're all keeping our map out there for getting that done. And then we're all hearing the blended classroom quality needs to really increase as we get more and more students out there. So anything I can do to help you talk through those issues, I'm glad to do it, as well as others, not just that last one.
Okay. Graduate school, Eric?
We had our first student survive the IRB today. That seems to go well. Suzanne is off and running. Otherwise, I'm informed by the graduate faculty that all is well.
Okay. Seminary. Ethan? Okay. I skipped the committee, so I'm going to come back to that now, and then we'll finish out this with the centers and the KO and the CUIC, but I don't think we have anyone online, so I'll report from them. PC.
Wheels. Huge. Biggest area. We've kind of readjusted the personal enrichment, how that's set up. Personal enrichment is different than audit. Personal enrichment does not go on a student's transcript. And we are also added to do personal enrichment, students need to first of all get the professor's approval, and it's also only in class, not online. This is the only way they can do personal enrichment. So those are the 2 changes that's been added to the catalog, which is not the one that's on the website at the moment. It's one that's still in process. So that's the big change there. And then the other, we've had a few classes. Jerry is working on an accounting emphasis, and that's next door to being finalized. So.
Yeah, well, we'll have the next ACC meeting. We should approve the course descriptions for those classes. Okay. Faculty Senate. Luther?
Hi. We're just continuing to plug away. You know what I'm saying? I think the next the next meeting, this February, we're gonna probably, discuss, sabbaticals. That'll be kind of the heavy topic we'll be dealing with,
Okay.
for next meeting, so, as well as, other things, reviewing other things that we probably have to look over. That's probably gonna be the big thing on the table.
Questions? Yes.
I actually didn't get a chance, I wanted to ask Gary a question about personal enrichment. How much does that cost per credit hour?
It varies by who's doing it. It's about $50.
If it's a Calvary
If it's a
family member,
Right.
then it's way cheaper. Or if it's a student who's enrolled here,
Right.
it's cheaper. If it's an outside member of the community that's
It's
not
more-
a student,
I think it's 150 for them.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Is that written down somewhere or something?
Yes, it's in
on
the
the
catalog.
phone.
Yep. We had people taking personal enrichment online. We had to stop that. It was too confusing for faculty and not really fair to other online students. So
What's the responsibility of the faculty member to personal enrichment of the student?
none.
Nothing.
So I don't understand why there'd be a problem with doing it online.
Because
Access to material.
yeah, access to materials, FERPA issues, yeah, there's kind of a number of issues that came up. And plus the faculty didn't know that they were personal enrichment and they're not turning anything in. Of course, it's the same with auditing. They're not turning anything in and you don't know what's going on, why are they, and so Gary got telephone calls and emails, and so we decided not to do that. You can audit online though.
Mhm.
Yep. But there's a transcript record generated for an audit. There was no record at all of anything for personal enrichment except a receipt that we got your money.
Are the students marked somehow in Canvas to indicate what is their status?
In CAMS,
In Canvas?
yes. In CAMS it'll show up, if a student is auditing, it'll show up.
You'll say AU
Yeah.
under the.
But it doesn't show up in Canvas.
What about personal enrichment? Same thing?
We let you know.
Yeah, it's kind of off books. Although I had a personal enrichment student in class for J-term that was in CAMS. Yeah, I think that's the first time that's ever happened. Okay, Rose is not here. Retention committee.
Well, we got iced out of our meeting last Thursday, but the admissions department has collected some data that we're going to look at during our next meeting that students who were enrolled in the fall and didn't return this spring gave to admissions, but we haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Okay. Steering committee. The steering committee continues to work on the assurance argument for the HLC visit in December. We will have to have that finished this summer, and that's just kind of where that's at. Admissions, is there admissions here? No. Library. Nope. CAC.
I have
And
some-
DSS while you're on the roll.
All right,
Yes.
sounds good. I am pleased to report that my tutors looked at over 289 essays, some of great length, which should have been counted as maybe 5 essays, but whatever. That does include senior projects from your classes, and I think 1 or 2 master's theses, and actually several drafts of one of them, which was pretty cool. We served 659 students total for last semester, which is pretty cool. That includes the 289 essays, but also a lot of face-to-face interactions with subject matter, like can you just give me a one-on-one grammar class, or an over-the-phone grammar classes. We've had a couple of our online students needing that. We have implemented math tutoring and Greek tutoring. As soon as the PhD program started, my Greek tutor the very next day spent 3 hours going over Greek with one of the PhD students. That seems to be going well. Thank you, Dr. Nelson, for recommending Shannon to us. She's a great asset. I'm training her in the seminary level Turabian, which is now the normal Turabian
Yes.
for fall, which is great. So she's kind of specializing in that. So if you know anyone who needs help with Greek at undergrad or grad level, she's kind of a point person.
What's
for
her
that.
name?
Shannon Long is her name. Yep. So she's kind of working until I'm able to get a seminary level tutor. She's kind of helping in that capacity. So, and she's outstanding. Did a really good job. I don't know if I told you that I had a math tutor and then we lost the math tutor. We now have a better math tutor who is working about 15 hours a week. She's very, very strong. Rumor has it she had some Fulbright scholarships to some very good universities and chose us. And she's phenomenal.
Who is
So,
the tutor?
this is Amanda Harmon.
Okay.
So she is she's really, really good. And she's also really good for writing as well. So she's doing both of those. So send your math students or people who maybe you're not teaching a math course, but you can tell they need some number help, send them our way. We had worked with over 102, not over, exactly 102 basketball players. That means repeat visits, obviously, where the basketball coach has required his men's basketball team to come to the CAC, check in with the tutor, and then work in the library. And then the tutor checks in with them about every 15 minutes. How's it going? Can I help you with anything? That study accountability has been really good for those basketball players as they work towards a GPA goal. And a number of professors have used that as well for their students. Bobby's taken advantage of that with a student in the past, saying this student really needs some accountability. And we track that, kind of work with the student, become their mentor. So that's been a really great program. So if you can think of some people that need a little help in that way, please send them our way. We are working on staying ahead of the curve as we add on additional sites. Erin is working on getting some webcams for us so we can get some online tutoring. I run an online tutoring business on the side, so I'm used to that. So we're getting that set up hopefully in the next month or so. So that's it on the CAC side. On DSS, I wanted to read to you a statement that one of my students provided about the services that he received, because this is one of the things that the students are dealing with and how DSS is able to help. So here's what he said, and I'm sharing this anonymously with his permission. He said, in trying to do an essay, this was his process. I had to speak into my phone and then go back to my phone and have it read it out loud to me to fix grammatical errors. After that, I would have to copy and paste it to my email and email it to myself, and then paste it in a Word document, and then format it according to Turabian. It's like trying to eat soup with a fork. And basically, he couldn't really see or read what was on the screen. Everything had to be read aloud to him. And what that looked like, if you didn't know, is that he couldn't speak English in any way, shape, or form, which if you talk to him face to face, he can. But when he's writing a paper, it makes his papers look incompetent. What we did is we partnered with him as he went through our application process to provide Scribble services. So he would come and dictate his papers to a live tutor instead of to a computer, and be able to get a paper typed up. The tutor does not do the work for him, does not correct his grammar, spelling, and punctuation, but then he goes to another CAC tutor and works with them on that. He said it was game-changing for him. I say that because we've had a decline in students using our services, and I feel like there's more people out there that need that. We're doing things on our end to reach out to students, make them aware of our services, but you know, just want to make you aware of that too. The process that they need to go through is pretty simple, but they do have to go through the DSS office. And I heard a couple of reports of students who were showing up in class demanding accommodations and were upset that they weren't getting it, and they had never come to my office. So they need to make an appointment with me or with my assistant. There is an application form to fill out, and they need to provide documentation. They can't, it actually has to be documentation from within the last 5 years of some kind of medical exam. And then after that, I become their advocate, and we work with you all to establish reasonable accommodations according to the law. So, anyway, and if you have someone like that who's in your classes, you should have received an email from me. And there were very few of those this semester, because one of the things that happens is students are tending to assume that I know exactly what their schedule is and exactly what's going on in their life, and so we're trying to track them down and say, what's going on? Do you need accommodations? Because they're getting mad that they're not getting anything. So we're still working on communicating. Come on, tell us what you need, and we'll help you out. So, are there any questions that I can answer on the CAC side or DSS?
Hebrew tutor.
What's that?
Hebrew tutor.
Hebrew tutor, yes. Do you know someone? I'd love one.
Japan.
All right.
Well, we can do this remotely. We can do a remote tutor.
Yeah.
Time zones could be a problem.
That's okay. Probably doesn't sleep anyway. So for the CAC report
Yes.
and what you just read with regard to DSS,
Yeah.
I need reports, documentations
Yes.
for the HLC visit. That's the
Okay.
kind of thing. That's the kind of thing we need to put in the assurance argument.
I sent Jackie the CAC report.
Okay.
My assistant's working on the DSS report. What we're trying to do is go back and find old records from previous years,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not really sure exactly where some of those are. So, but we're working on it.
Tom, did you have something?
I was just, are you serious about remote tutors? Because the CV that I gave to Jackie the other day, the guy in Chula Vista for Greek and Hebrew
Well,
at the
that's
seminary level.
something we should refer to Thomas to see if that's
Yeah.
workable or not.
Yeah.
You know,
That would be.
if it's someone in the States that's in a reasonable time zone, then maybe we could do something with them.
Well, last year I tutored with a company where I was working with Chinese students, and so I would just get up and teach from like 3 in the morning to 6 in the morning.
That explains a lot.
Yeah. And my daughter was born right then.
Sure. Okay.
It's fun sometimes.
Okay. Student services. Is the dean's office here? Wow. Class advisors. Freshman class advisor. Freshman class advisor.
Well, we just completed the freshman
Winter social. Yes, winter social.
Freshman winter social. That was a success. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there because I had plumbing issues. But it was a success. So now they're working on fundraising for the fall social. And they've already gotten started. They just need to narrow it down on what they want to do. They're on the move.
Cool. Sophomore class.
It's the same thing with them. I have to chase my class down to find out what they're doing. They're getting ready to do a live clue.
Yes.
Which is kind of interesting. So I got an email saying, "Hey, can we do this?"
Yeah,
I was like, "Hey, that's cool."
If you wanna know what they're doing, just come ask me, cause they're always asking me for space.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I don't have that power, so they don't ask me.
Did they put the posters up before they asked you?
They didn't ask me for that either. but they're doing well.
Great.
I actually talked to a couple of them.
Junior class. I forget who this junior class advisor is. Oh, okay.
They have their venue nailed down finally. Went through a little bit of a hiccup there where they had a venue and then they lost it because they didn't get the deposit in on time. But they have a new venue now. They're working on a video to be released soon in chapel regarding what Spring Banquet's going to be all about, and the big secret that I can't tell anyone, but you'll find out soon enough. Yeah, that's it. They're continuing to work on it. So.
Cool. Senior class.
This is
Unchang is Unchang fell, right? Tom?
First I've heard of it.
I heard that she fell
Today?
Yesterday.
yesterday. Yeah.
First I've heard.
Okay, I'm moving on now. So we'll pray for her. Okay, now back up here. Centers, 6.
Okay, a couple of things. I'm working on the logo for the center with Adam Weeks. I guess he's the artist, and with the consultation of Tom and with others, and yeah, Sean LePage also is coming in on that, and I'm also copying it to Andrew Snelling, so he knows what's going on. And we don't want to duplicate anything.
Yeah.
Anything of Answers in Genesis or anybody else. So we're working on that. And then I'm continuing to, a lot of what I do with the center is interacting with people. And I'm always seem to be interacting with Thomas Purefoy of Is Genesis History. He's always asking questions about Hebrew and so forth. And then another thing is this is the Flat Earth, or I should say the Contra Flat Earth documentary. That's just about finished. And I've had to, again, I've had to interact quite a bit with Pat Roy on that, and with Kyle Justice, trying to explain things rigorously but simply, so that people, because he's going to read a statement and it has to sound like something that he came up with, not what I came up with. So I think that's really important. And in fact, I just got a question today, and Hugh called me up when I was over my office and said, you looked at your emails, Danny Faulkner sent you an email, and he's interacting with Flat Earth people. In fact, Danny actually has gone to Flat Earth conferences, which is quite interesting. And so this guy was waxing eloquent to Danny about the meaning of a certain Hebrew preposition, and therefore it had to mean within the enclosed earth, because of Ba'aretz, in the earth. And so I'm going to compose an answer to him about that. That you can't pigeonhole prepositions like that in language, and also the correspondence between them. And I'm going to be speaking at the beginning of March at the Creation Study Association of Mid-America over in Kansas, and my title is going to be Some Timely Thoughts About the Flood, in which I'm going to share some of my research. If anybody wants to know more about my research, come out to the CSMA meeting it's the first Tuesday in March. So that's, I think, about all I have right now. I'm trying to work on the office and getting books in place. I got those 2 boxes of books from Lee Anderson. I haven't put them up yet, and I'm looking at them yet.
Before we move on to Tommy, do you want to talk about the Torah, or do we want to discuss that at all?
Well, yeah. God's Ancient Library, been contacted about Calvary University receiving a gift of a Torah scroll. And so Teddy and myself will be flying up to Minneapolis April 9th. Lord willing, to get that scroll and bring it back on the 10th.
Does it get its own airplane seat?
Hopefully,
the question.
Hopefully we can get that back here, and we'll have a special meeting for the faculty to see it. And what we'll do is we'll gradually unveil this thing. I guess we'll start with the faculty first, and then we'll have the staff, administration, and then students. Maybe we could have a chapel or special chapel or something like that. But this isn't just some small gift. This is from Israel. It's a few hundred years old and worth several $1,000s.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's going to be in the display.
We'll need to make sure it's protected.
Yep.
Will it need a special environment?
That'll be interesting.
We'll have to have
find out
Tiffany
how
do
to-
some
how to
research on
care
that.
for it.
Curate it. Yeah.
Does it come with a care manual?
Well, we're gonna have three long sessions that Wednesday. Find out about that.
Yeah, they'll tell us.
What it is after
So,
certain
this is, Dr. Gramacki took the initiative to contact the organization, and it really paid off, so.
April 9 and 10, yeah.
Dr. Ice, anything? Burnham Center, anything?
The missions conference is over. Praise the Lord. I jokingly tell people my favorite part of the missions conference is when it's done.
Of course, yes.
So I don't think I received a whole lot of feedback from faculty or staff on that, probably because the evaluation forms were at the last chapel. So if you want to comment on it, you can tell me now, or you can catch me later, and I can email you a form and stick it in my mailbox if you want to be
Could you just email the form out to the faculty?
anonymous. Yeah.
Or send it to myself or Jackie, and we can email it to the faculty.
Okay.
Yep.
So especially, well, on that, I would especially like to hear thoughts on potentially moving the missions conference from being Monday through Wednesday to being Wednesday through Friday. So we had a whole lot of conflicting things going on this year, and space issues and stuff. Midwest Church Extension has officially joined us in Synergy, in the Synergy program, and so excited about that. They're going to be a little different in that they're going to have a 2-year residency program, and so students who complete Synergy through Midwest Church Extension will actually go to a location, work through a church plant, be taking classes online while they're at that location, and then come back here to finish up for their last semester. And so excited about that opportunity for them. Village Missions is next in line. They have something similar that they want to do. And then just continuing to work on other overseas opportunities. And so, like mentioned in chapel yesterday, we'll be going back to Greece in 2020, and then working with Masaki and his church to go to Japan in the summer of 2021.
Cool. Sprechen Sie Japanese?
No.
Okay. Nikeo.
We had the opportunity to sit down with our Nikeo leadership students about a week and a half ago, and we got some feedback from our students about the year that they are having. And it was really cool to be able to hear some of the things that they had to say. I think one of the coolest things that they had to say was a couple of them talked about how they see leadership differently than what they had thought about leadership when they came on campus. And they were able to describe about when they came on campus, they thought leadership was more of a position and somebody being out in front. And now they see leadership as perhaps serving and helping people to be able to be successful. And they mentioned you all in some of those conversations, because there's numerous ones of you that are involved in different Nikeo students and their tracks and how they spend their hours every week. And those Nikeo students value you greatly. And I wanted to thank you for the time that you spend with them. They tell me they get so much from that mentor relationship with you, and just wanted to say thanks. It's been a real positive response in that environment from those students, and they are encouraged, and there's obviously things to work on as well, and we want to continue, but that's just a little bit of a report, and I just wanted to say thanks.
Thanks, Jeanette. CUIC is not online. Instead of going around the room this time, I'm just going to ask if there's anything that anyone wants to highlight. Tom, you have event coming up.
On the 23rd of Saturday, 3 p.m., Dr. An and Unchang Christopher and friends are doing a German recital.
In Italian.
Pardon?
Okay. Bobby.
And that'll be at Blue River, by the way.
Yeah, so things are going really well. You can see we have our dance floors finally in, and it almost got a leak on it yesterday, so it was like deja vu all over again. But the show has really come along well. It's a lot of fun, a lot of energy. I never have to say I need more energy because it's really there. So we're having a great time. Ticket sales are live now, and so if you go, probably the easiest way for faculty to go get tickets is there's a that red banner that goes across our homepage. At the far right, there's a link to the box office. Just click on that, and then it'll tell you how to. In there, you can order your faculty tickets.
So any shows sold out yet?
No, but we have a lot of ticket sales already. I think
Okay.
it's about $1,400 worth of ticket sales, and which we've never had actually this early in the game. So I would really recommend that you get tickets as soon as possible because it looks like we will have sellouts.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything? Any alibis? Yeah, Jeanette. Oh, we have a conference.
We have a conference basketball tournament that is taking place on our campus starting in 2 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We have 12 basketball teams coming here to campus, and our men's and women's basketball team are going to be playing. And if you go to our athletic Facebook page, you'll see brackets. Both of our teams are seeded number 2 in their respective tournaments. And so we're excited about the potential that they have to have good tournaments. We have complimentary tickets for Calvary people, including you and students and your wives or husbands, at 4 different places on campus. They're going to be given out in chapel tomorrow. They're going to be given out at the switchboard. They're laying there. Now, and they're going to be given out in the Warrior Cafe, and they're laying there on the counter now. And they are going to be given out to the students in the dorm, in the front entrance there, in the dorm. But unfortunately, if you don't have a ticket when you come, you have to pay like everybody. And so please pick up your tickets. They're complimentary because we want to have that place rocking and loud for the tournament. And we are just invite you to come and see what's happening.
Great. Anyone else? Any alibis? Nope. Okay, I'll close this in prayer. Father, we just thank you for this time, for everyone that's here. We thank you for the continued opportunity that we have to serve here at Calvary, and just pray for your wisdom going forward on the institution, and as we prepare for the HLC visit in December and other things coming up. We also pray for safety as during this winter we continue to have students who've fallen and faculty as well, and we just place them before you. And we just commit the remainder of this week to you. Just pray for the conference coming up. It'd be a great time here on campus for the students to experience, and that would be safe as well with teams coming and going. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, thanks.